What is the best Mario game? Alternatively, what's your favorite Mario game? I'm going on a journey to play every Mario game to find my answer to both of these questions, but what does the community think? To try to get a grasp on what the community believes to be the best Mario game, I've rounded up 100 tier lists to try to answer this question. I took 50 from YouTube and 50 from Reddit, wrote all of them down by hand into a Google Sheet, and calculated the results. So let's get a few things out of the way here. For starters, 100 is an astronomically small sample size. 100 is a fraction of a percentage of an inkling of the Mario fanbase. The highest selling Mario game of all time is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is currently sitting at 68 million copies sold at the time of writing this. 100 lists does not even scratch the surface. Ideally, I would have liked to have gotten more lists. 1,000 lists probably still wouldn't be much, but it would be better than 100. But at the end of the day, I am one person doing this by hand. The process isn't really possible to automate, so I had to give myself a cutoff point, and 100 seemed like the highest reasonable number, unless I wanted to dedicate at least an entire month to nothing but data analysis. I suppose I'm not against doing that, but it's excessive for what is basically a just-for-fun project. Secondly, I had a bit of a filtration process when deciding on what lists to take. For YouTube, I typed in a Mario tier list into the search bar while signed in, and I took the first 50 eligible lists that I found. I specified that I was signed in because the YouTube algorithm certainly had a hand in determining which lists made it into my data. Channels that I'm subscribed to or have watched videos from in the past made it to the top of the search, but what exactly do I mean by eligible videos? Well, I disregarded anything that wasn't a tier list. Any top 10 lists or generic ranking videos that didn't feature explicit tiers were disregarded. I also disregarded all of those The President's Rank Every Mario Game videos where AI, Trump, and Biden narrate a tier list together. This was done because it's sometimes hard to tell when those AI videos are meant to be a silly sketch and when the creator is just using them to narrate their own personal list. Any videos that have multiple people working on a single list were accepted, however. Though, if part of the video had them all creating individual lists and then combining them into one, I only paid attention to the final result. An exception here would be any videos in which a live chat voted on tiers. This seemed redundant, as that's kind of the entire purpose of this experiment to begin with, so those videos were ignored. For the lists I got from Reddit, they were all taken from r/Mario, and I typed tier list into the search and sorted by the default settings, most relevant and all time. Much like leaving out the president lists from YouTube, I ignored any list with the humor tag, as I assumed it was not the actual opinion of the person who made it. There were some instances in which one person was responsible for multiple lists, and my solution to that was to accept both if there was no overlap between games. For instance, it wasn't uncommon to see someone make a tier list for all of the 2D games, and then make a second one for all of the 3D games, or to make one for mainline Mario, and then make one for Mario Kart or the RPGs. You get the idea. I would accept overlap in games if the creator was one contributor to a community list, though. For instance, Peanut Butter Gamer made his own tier list of mainline Mario games, and also made a tier list with 3 other creators for the Normal Boots 3D Mario tier list. Both of those were accepted.
Hold it!
Hey guys, Future Zeffy here. I just want to preemptively apologize for what you're about to watch. You are about to see some of the worst Mario 64 gameplay maybe ever. So when I was making this video, I just kind of took some random footage from my gameplay folder on my computer and just plopped it into the timeline without really paying much mind to it. But then when I went to go edit, I realized how bad I was playing in this footage. And I have no recollection of recording this. I don't remember when this was. I don't know if there's an excuse as to why I'm playing this bad, if I was on like 30 hours without sleep or something like that, because that's really the only explanation I can think of. I just want you guys to know that I've beaten this game before, like 100%ed it, like double-digit number of times. So I have no idea why the gameplay is this bad. And yeah, I could just replace it with different gameplay and then nothing would be an issue. But this is so bad that I think that I deserve to be ridiculed for it. So go ahead and like make fun of me in the comments for how bad this footage is. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Back to the feature presentation. Let's go. I should also mention that this data is relatively old. I did this project in my own free time a couple of years ago, and I'm really only now deciding to publish my findings. The newest game at the time of my data collection was Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope, so anything released after that, including Super Mario Bros. Wonder, will not be mentioned in this video. In terms of formatting, I took every instance of when a game appeared on a list and noted its respective letter score, using a system that goes from S to F. Anytime someone had a tier called God tier or greatest game ever made or something like that, I put it at S tier, though if there was already an S tier on the list, I would move it to double S tier. Likewise, if someone had a tier called trash or awful or worst game ever, I placed it in F- tier. I suppose this is a good time to bring up plus and minus tiers. Some people naturally included them into their lists, and some didn't, but would still place games between tiers. In an instance where someone was torn between S and A, for example, and placed it between the two, I would round down to A+. So I knew going into this that this exercise would be tedious and difficult, but there were a few unforeseen issues that I encountered. The biggest one by far: you guys are bad at making tier lists. No, seriously, a lot of you are awful at it. And I don't mean that you have bad opinions. I don't really care about how much you like these games, but you guys are awful at formatting tier lists. For one, use fucking letters. It's so irritating when I come across a list where all the tiers are named stuff like amazing, pretty good, not bad, okay, meh. Like, stop. It's annoying. We use letters for a reason. Do you know where tier lists come from? The concept stems from when people rank the competitive viability of a cast of fighting game characters. We use letters because A, it's simple, and B, because everyone knows what this means. Because basically every single educational system in the world uses a letter-based grading system. I'll concede that S being higher than A is a bit of a Japan-centric concept, but if you've ever played, like, any video game that grades you on stage performance or has letter-based stats to some degree, you should be used to seeing S being the highest grade. So, for instances like this, I considered the highest tier on the list to be S, and then moved down one letter at a time. This might not be how the creator of the list intended for it to be interpreted, but that's the best I got. Additionally, stop putting everything in S tier. When I look at a list and like half of it is S tiers, S tier kind of loses all meaning. Your list should have a nice little bell curve where there's a few things in the top and bottom tiers, but most of it is near the middle. Like, look at Craig from Screw Attack here. He has fucking 12 S tiers and 13 double S tiers. That's 25. That's almost half of his list. Another issue I encountered was that there's little consensus on what letter the bottom tier is. For some people it's D, for some it's E, and for some it's F. Some people included D but skipped E and go straight to F, and some people skip right from C to F. This, however, I'm not going to blame on you guys. I'm going to blame this on the school system. Personally, I don't skip letters when making my tier lists, but the American school system does. Some schools only have 4 grades, A, B, C, and F. Some have D, but it's usually not very standardized. I don't think I've ever heard of an American school that uses E at all. When encountering this issue, I took it at face value. Whatever letter score a game was given, that's where I placed it, even if the creator skipped a letter or two. As far as we're concerned, D, E, and F are all failing grades. It was also pretty common for people to place games in a haven't played or no opinion tier. For instances like this, I ranked them in sort of a null tier, where I still bothered to record it, but its ranking has no value on the data. If the game was left out of the list entirely, though, I didn't count it for anything. Well, with all of that out of the way, what does our data look like? Well, going into this, I had a few hypotheses. I sort of had an idea of which game would be number 1 and which game would be at the very bottom. I also had an idea of what the top 5 mainline games would be, as well as which spin-offs would be rated the highest of their subseries. Before I get into any of the details here, I want you all to pause and write down which games you think fall into each of these categories. For one, something that I didn't really consider being a factor is what I'm calling template lists. Basically, whenever you go on a tier list website, you can very easily search for tier lists on any subject. Some people on YouTube would format their own tier lists, but many would just use some of these pre-made templates. But why does that matter? Well, there were about 3 or 4 commonly reoccurring templates that I found, and some of these omit certain games and or include some more obscure ones. For example, one template list included Mario Kart 8, but not Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. For these cases, I counted the game ranked as Mario Kart 8 unless the creator specified that they were treating the game as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. A similar case arose with Super Mario All-Stars. For those that don't know, there are 3 versions of Super Mario All-Stars: the original game, Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World, and Super Mario All-Stars Limited Edition. One popular template included All-Stars plus World and All-Stars Limited, but not the original one. This is an interesting place to be in. For this, I counted All-Stars Limited as the original unless specified by the creator. The reason for this is several-fold. For one, they are literally the exact same game. I also did this because I think that people were ranking it as if it was the original. I'm assuming that most normal people don't even know that there are 3 versions of Super Mario All-Stars, and those that do know have very differing opinions of the original and All-Stars Limited, and they would probably bring it up. There were also a few other strange omissions. There were 3 Yoshi games that were prominently featured, and those were Yoshi's Island, Yoshi's New Island, and Yoshi's Island Super Mario Advance 3. That's it. I can sort of understand not wanting to include some of the Yoshi-centric games that don't include Mario, such as Yoshi's Story or Yoshi's Woolly World, but Yoshi's Island DS was never featured on a single list, despite the 2 games flanking it in the Yoshi's Island series being featured on multiple. Wario and Donkey Kong games are also in a similar boat. Wario Land Super Mario Land 3 was featured in a grand total of 2 entire lists, with no other games primarily featuring Wario to be included at all. Donkey Kong fared a bit better, though not by much. Donkey Kong, as in the arcade game, was included in 8 lists and properly ranked in 7 of them, and Donkey Kong Game Boy was only included once. This I find mildly strange, as Donkey Kong is the first Mario game. You'd think that it would appear on way more than 8 lists, or at least I think it would. The rest of the Donkey Kong series, including Donkey Kong Country and spin-offs like DK King of Swing, were never mentioned, and that actually makes sense to me, as the Donkey Kong series tends to be a bit more divorced from the Mario series than Yoshi and Wario are. I don't know if other people feel the same way. However, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games showed up more than I'd expected. Each and every game in the series, including Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge, was included at least 4 times and properly ranked a majority of the time, and there was even one list that differentiated between the 3DS and Wii U versions of Tipping Stars. Apart from that, there weren't any other strange omissions. I did notice some strange inclusions, however. For instance, the tangential Mario games, Golf NES, Golf Game Boy, Baseball, and Pinball all appeared exactly once, though the person who included them didn't rank a single one of them. These aren't the weirdest inclusions though, as they are listed as games on the Super Mario Wiki, but I wouldn't really expect to see them on any list that isn't comprehensive enough to include something like Yoshi's Story, for example. Another strange inclusion is the entire Mario Artist tetralogy, a series of games released only in Japan for the N64 DD, and can barely even be classified as games more than they can as art software with Mario on the cover. Fittingly though, while these games were included in 3 lists, not a single person properly ranked any of them. I also noticed that a few of the American licensed Mario games appeared often enough. These games include Mario is Missing, Mario's Time Machine, and the Mario's Early Years trilogy. Each of these games was included on 3 lists. I think they were included as their sort of infamous bad or weird Mario games that Nintendo had little to no involved with. Notably absent though are both Mario Teaches Typing and Hotel Mario. I honestly find it weird that Hotel Mario never made it onto a single list when it's a perfect meme choice to include, especially when you're already adding the whole Early Years trilogy. One inclusion that certainly makes sense is how the game Bowser's Fury was included on 7 lists. This is only odd because there is no video game that exists called Bowser's Fury. If you know anything about the game, though, this actually makes a lot of sense. Since Bowser's Fury only exists in a combo package with the Switch port of Super Mario 3D World, though it is a wholly separate experience from that game, it makes total sense why some people would elect to consider it its own title. In fact, over a third of the people who included Bowser's Fury in some form counted it as a standalone title. By far, the strangest inclusion that I didn't expect at all was Mario Clash, a game which I can't imagine is too well known, which was properly ranked on 5 different lists. Which brings me to another point. I think that some people just straight up lied about some games that they've played. Like, I find it hard to believe that this many people out of my sample size have played Mario Clash, Virtual Boy exclusive title. Same goes with some of the edutainment games, which, granted, only received like 2 or 3 votes apiece, but I'm not exaggerating when I say that even that seems like too much for me. Like, I get that stuff like Mario is Missing is kind of a meme, but honestly, what's the percentage of Mario fans who have actually played it? Or how about the single vote for Mario Kart Arcade GP VR, a virtual reality game that runs at very select test sites across the world, which requires a paid ticket to even play? You're telling me that of the 100 random people I chose, one of them just so happened to be one of the people allowed to play this game? Because I'm doubtful, personally. This makes sense, though, when I tell you that the guys who made the list that involved that one vote just blindly put every Mario Kart game on A tier haphazardly. But this is the data I'm given. I really can only take it at face value. I have to be unbiased in this analysis. The Super Smash Bros. Series had a pretty weird trend. I'm not shocked to see them show up on a couple of lists, but the data surrounding them is really strange. Melee and Smash Wii U appeared on one single list but weren't ranked. Smash 64 was included and ranked on one single list. Brawl and 3DS both appeared on 2 lists, though were only ranked on one, and only Ultimate was included and ranked on 2 lists. I also found a neat little pattern with the Mario and Sonic games, or well, as neat as anything in this exercise could be considered. Each home console game appeared exactly 4 times and was properly ranked either 3 or all 4 times. The handheld versions, though, only ever appeared once or twice, but were properly ranked each time they did. This isn't really surprising, and it's actually kind of nice to see the data line up so evenly like that. 6 arcade games made their way onto the lists, and I want you to pause and try to guess which 6 they are, because you are seriously never going to get this. They were Donkey Kong, Luigi's Mansion Arcade, and all 4 Mario Kart Arcade GP games. This wouldn't be too weird on its own until you consider the fact that games you'd absolutely expect to see, like Donkey Kong Jr., are nowhere to be found. A few other final things of note. New Play Control Mario Tennis appeared on one list, a list that also included regular Mario Power Tennis. And finally, there was a single chucklefuck who counted Excitebike as a Mario Kart game for some reason. Alright, it's time to actually start running some numbers here. The game that appeared on the most lists was Super Mario Galaxy at 81, with Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Odyssey coming in tied for second with 80. Galaxy and Odyssey were ranked in every single list that they were included on, though there was a single list that included 64 without ranking it. I also would like to list the games that only appeared on one single list. Those would be Donkey Kong Game Boy, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars 3DS, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Golf NES, Golf Game Boy, Baseball, Mario Strikers Battle League, New Play Control Mario Tennis, Wrecking Crew, Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games 3DS, Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games 3DS, Pinball, Super Smash Bros., Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, and Excitebike. All of these games make sense to have only appeared once. Almost all of these games are either not a Mario game, a port or handheld version of a more popular version of the same game, or Wrecking Crew, a game that nobody's ever played. The only 2 exceptions here are Mario Strikers Battle League and Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. However, these were the 2 most recent games released at the time of me collecting this data, and therefore a lot of lists that I found were made before these games were even out. On a similar note, there were a few games that never properly got ranked on any list. Golf NES, Golf Game Boy, Baseball, Pinball, Mario's Picross, Mario's Super Picross, Picross 2, Mario Artist Paint Studio, Mario Artist Talent Studio, Mario Artist Communication Kit, Mario Artist Polygon Studio, Nintendo Puzzle Collection, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. But so what, I hear you saying? What is the top game? And that's not super easy to definitively answer. Allow me to do what I do best and talk some math with you. You see, when calculating average, there's 3 common methods for doing so: mean, median, and mode. Most of you should all know this, as it's taught pretty early in schools, but in case you forgot, let me refresh you. For starters, we have mean, and mean is usually what people are talking about when they say average. The mean is achieved by adding up all of the values in the dataset and then dividing by the number of data entries. After that is median, which is easier to calculate. Median is literally just the middle number in an ordered dataset. And the final type is mode, which is the number that appears the most often in a dataset. But which of these is most useful? And which of these is most accurate? Well, there's no correct answer here for either question. All 3 methods have their pros and cons. Mean, for example, is the most commonly used for a reason. It's the method that gets you the true average. There is only one con with using mean, though, and it's a big one. Mean value is incredibly susceptible to outliers. And for those that don't remember what an outlier is, it's a single or small number of values that don't follow the trend that other values in a dataset follow. It only takes one outlier to skew your data. For instance, a game that ranks fairly well, getting a majority of S tier votes, could get 1 or 2 E or F tiers, and that could bring the game down into A tier alone. Conversely, the opposite could happen. A game that scores unfavorably may get a single S or double S tier, which could bring it up from something like a D or E tier into C tier. The median or middle number is seemingly a great way to counter this flaw with mean. When it comes to median, any outliers hold no more weight than any other numbers in the set. For instance, if the median for a game score is B tier, that single F tier rating counts no more than if it were a C or even another B. But it's not perfect though. Because there is no weight behind values, a game where the community has a split opinion would be skewed. If a game had 17 S tier ratings, 16 F tier ratings, and nothing in between, we would end up with an S tier rating, all just because of one person. I realize that this is probably the most extreme example I could possibly come up with, and nothing on our list honestly really even looks like this. In fact, in nearly every instance, the median either shared a value with the mean and or the mode, or was a value in between the two. Only a handful of times was the median the highest or lowest of the 3 values. And finally, we have mode. Mode, I would say, has the best pros but the worst cons of the 3. To explain, mode is the easiest of the 3 to calculate. You don't even have to do any calculations. You just look at which data value appears the most. Also, outliers affect absolutely nothing. Since we only care about the most popular values, a value that was only noted once has 0 weight on our data. The major con, though, is that since we're only interested in the most popular value, the other values basically don't matter. If there's a game that has 5 S tiers but an even spread of votes between A and F, though no other value exceeds 4 votes, the game would receive an S tier for mode, even though the community at large would have a much wider range of opinions on it. In fact, you're actually gonna see this quite a bit. Maybe not my exact example, but some very similar to it. So you may have figured it out by now, but I chose all 3. I think that it would be interesting to calculate the mean, median, and mode for our list, and compare and contrast all 3 methods. For calculating all 3 averages, I assigned each tier letter a number score. F is 1, E is 2, D is 3, so on until we get to double S, which is 8. For plus or minus scores, I added or subtracted 0.375 from the whole number appropriately. To sort games within the same average tier, I added up how many times each game was ranked in or above their average and sorted the games that way. For example, if a game had an average score of B tier, I counted up the total number of Bs, As, Ss, double Ss, and anything in between, and sorted the games within tiers by that number. And now for the moment of truth. What was the most popular game? I've kept you waiting long enough, I'll just tell you straight up. When sorting by mean, the winner is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and when sorting by median and mode, the winner is Super Mario Odyssey. This is more or less what I expected, at least for Odyssey. I very much expected Odyssey to sweep the list and be placed at number 1. I'll say I expected Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to rank high, but I didn't expect it to surpass Odyssey. When you look at the numbers though, you'll see why. Odyssey had a spread that favored S's, double S's, and A's, but it had 2 D's and 1 C, which was enough to bring its total average down from S to S-. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, on the other hand, didn't have a lower score than A. In fact, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is one of only 2 games to be ranked with an S tier for its mean, with Odyssey being in 3rd place, but the highest among the S- tiers. But then, which game was the other S tier? Well, in 2nd place came Mario Kart Arcade GP DX. This is ludicrous, right? Mario Kart Arcade GP DX had a grand total of 2 votes, 1 for A and 1 for double S. While we're at it, let's look at what the bottom game is. If you scroll down to the bottom of all 3 lists, we'll find that we have a 2-way tie between Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge and Mario Tennis Power Tour. I can maybe buy that Amiibo Challenge is that low, but I'm not really satisfied with this result. And I know that altering your data because it's not very satisfying isn't very science-y, but if we're looking at all the raw data here, both of these games only got 1 vote. They're basically outliers by getting any votes at all. Likewise with Mario Kart Arcade GP DX. So, rather than altering my data, I've decided to truncate it. I made a secondary list consisting only of games that received 10 votes or more. This seemed like a fair way to weed out the outlier games. A product of doing this is that every single Mario Sports, Mario & Sonic, Dr. Mario, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and all miscellaneous games are dropped. Most of the Mario parties are dropped too, save for 8, 9, and Super. But where does that leave us now? Well, when looking at the mean, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still number 1, as well as the sole S tier, with Odyssey coming in 2nd. The lowest ranking game is Paper Mario Sticker Star at D- tier, and Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels at next lowest in D tier. This also supports my hypothesis that Sticker Star would be the lowest ranking game on the list. As for the median and mode, we have a lot more S tiers, and our bottom tiers are slightly different. I mentioned it earlier, but I had hypothesized that Odyssey would be number 1, which is true when looking at median and mode. I also had hypothesized which mainline games would be the top 5, which to my guess would be Odyssey, Galaxy, 64, World, and 3, more or less in that order. Color me surprised though, because I had completely underestimated Galaxy 2. Mean, median, and mode all had the same top 3 mainline games, those being Odyssey, Galaxy, and Galaxy 2. Number 4 and 5, respectively, when sorting by mean, were 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and Super Mario Advance 4 Super Mario Bros. 3, which was kind of shocking to see so high. I mean, it's a game that I would personally rate very high, but I didn't expect others to do the same though. Unfortunately, this game was considered an outlier game by my criteria, as it only had 5 votes. When truncating the data, number 5 was instead Super Mario 64, which isn't surprising. In fact, 64 was number 4 in both the median and mode lists. Number 5 for median was 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and number 5 for mode was Super Mario World. Much like Galaxy 2, I guess I underestimated 3D World Plus. It ranked top 5 in 2 lists and number 6 in the 3rd. I don't really have a reason for underestimating these games, I just didn't expect them to be as fan favorites as they are. Conversely, one game that I severely overestimated was Super Mario Bros. 3. I expected this game to be on par with Super Mario World, which I guess it more or less was, but Mario 3 never made it into S tier in any of the 3 lists, and it was always just outside of the top 5, unless you count its GBA port. But what about worst mainline games? In all 3 cases, Lost Levels was the worst mainline game, with the next 2 lowest games being Mario Run and Mario Land. I'll be honest, while this isn't surprising, I'd expect any of the new Soup games to be down here, given how much vitriol I hear people talk about these games with. Shockingly, the new Soup games never averaged any lower than C tier, with most of them centering around B tier. New Soup Wii was the highest ranking of the series, and it even snuck its way into A tier for median and mode. Like I said, given how strongly I hear people berate these games, I'd have thought that these would have been lower, but their rankings are kind of all over the place when you look at all the data. I guess it's just a very vocal minority that hates these games, and most fans are just kind of indifferent. Keep in mind, though, that this is still an unfathomably low sample size, so do not expect these results to reflect the community at large. But what about side games and a few of my other hypotheses? Well, as for RPGs, there were two that were battling it out for number one. I think you can probably guess that these two games were Thousand Year Door and Bowser's Inside Story. Using all three methods, TTYD was always number one, and BIS was almost always number two. This is basically exactly what I predicted. Paper Mario 1, though, got number 2 in the mean, which was a bit higher than I'd expected. I mean, I love this game, but I didn't expect it to see rank higher than BIS, even if it's only sorting on one list. I mentioned it earlier, but Sticker Star is pretty damn low. When truncating the data, it's the lowest game in the mean and median, and second lowest in the mode. The next lowest RPGs are Color Splash and Paper Jam. Try to act surprised by this at all. Alright, let's talk Mario Party. I fully expected Mario Party 2 to be the highest ranking one, thanks to YouTubers born in the 80s telling me that Mario Party 2 is the greatest game ever made, alongside the entire N64 catalog, apparently. Not to my shock, Mario Party 2 was number 1 for median and mode, but number 2 for mean. Number 1 for mean was instead Mario Party DS. This is because this game got a couple of S and double S tiers that stem from what I assume to be nostalgia from people that grew up with this game. And don't get me wrong, I love Mario Party DS. I also have nostalgia from growing up with this game, but it's not the best Mario Party game. As for the lowest games, the bottom 3 to bottom 5 all contained some combination of 9, 10, Top 100, Island Tour, and Star Rush. You know, the bad ones. I already mentioned how highly Mario Kart 8 Deluxe ranked, but there was one other Mario Kart game that came close. Mario Kart Wii came in second on all three lists. This isn't surprising nowadays, but 10 to 15 years ago, this would have been blasphemy. Mario Kart Wii used to be really hated by the average crowd. I think that the game's amazing community has just really done numbers on this game's reputation. After Wii, Double Dash, DS, and Vanilla 8 all came next in some ordering of the three. 64 and 7 usually came next, which is mildly surprising, because I'm used to people constantly talking about how good the N64 and its whole library was, so to see MK64 not even break the top 5 is mildly cathartic for me. The bottom 3 were some combination of Super Mario Kart, Mario Kart Tour, and Mario Kart Super Circuit. SMK and MKSC, I think many people just haven't played, and Tour is Tour. I neglected to mention Mario Kart Live and any of the arcade games because they got too few votes for me to deem them relevant to the topic of conversation. I don't really have much to say about the Mario sports titles, unfortunately. These games never got more than 5 votes max, so I don't have any data to base anything off. On top of that, we also have what I like to call a rogue subject. One list that I found ranking all of the Mario sports titles was a couple of guys who really fucking loved Mario Golf and really fucking hated Mario Tennis. So if you look at the data, you'll notice that half of the Mario Golf games have an S tier vote and a bunch of the Mario Tennis games have a D or F tier vote. It's all because of this one list. And since there were so few votes for any of these games, it really skewed the data. I also don't have much to say about Dr. Mario, as every game only got like 1 or 2 votes. But if you just looked at the averages without realizing that, you'd assume that this is Nintendo's most hated sub-series to date. Lightning round time. Yoshi's New Island ranked lower than the original and its remake. Dark Moon was the lowest ranking game of the Luigi's Mansion trilogy. And for those of you that care in the slightest, Mario vs. Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem and Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 were the highest ranking games for their respective series. After looking at the broad strokes, now I'd like to get into the nitty-gritty and look at a few games up close. And the game that I was the most excited to see the consensus on was Super Mario Sunshine. For most people, either you love this game or you hate it. Imagine my surprise when I see that the game's rankings tended towards A tier. I fully expected this game to land somewhere in the low B/C tier. It didn't even have the wildest spread though when it came to raw data. That honor would go to 3D Land. This game, and to an extent Vanilla 3D World, are all over the place. Looking at these games, it seemed that there wasn't much consensus on them. They were consistently getting high and low scores. New Soup 2 also had a pretty wild spread, though they did tend closer to the bottom. In fact, all of the New Soup games had pretty wide spreads, but like I mentioned earlier, they all tended towards the middle or even a bit higher. 3D All-Stars ranked a bit higher than I expected. This game is wildly controversial for, like, really dumb reasons for what it is, so I expected people to lambast this game. In reality, it got 2 D tiers and, like, a couple of Cs. Everything else was pretty positive, even getting 1 S and 1 double S. It averaged out to B tier every time. Similar to Sunshine, like I mentioned earlier, but I was excited to see the consensus on 64DS, as I hear a lot of people rag on that game hard. Now, it didn't quite rank as well as OG 64, obviously, but it got a good amount of S tiers and averaged around A tier. Again, I think it's just a very vocal minority that hates the game. One thing that surprised me was the fact that Superstar Saga and BIS both ranked basically the exact same as their 3DS remakes. Personally, this sickens me, because I think that the originals are way better, but I guess this makes sense. Another random one, but Mario Kart Wii had the most double S tiers of any non-mainline game. Which is rad, it's a great game with an awesome community. Not a single game in the miscellaneous category got any double S tiers, but 3 games got S tier. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Paint, and Super Princess Peach. Okay. Interesting group. Wrecking Crew got 1 vote for A tier. This guy clearly only played like the first 20 minutes. And, well, that's my data. I'll say I actually expected most of this to turn out the way it did. The games that I theorized to be at the very top and the very bottom were. If I had to say what my biggest surprise was, I'd say it was probably how high the new Soup games all ranked. I really expected them to trend toward the lower tiers. But what about you guys? Was this how you expected the data to pan out? And what about your own Mario game rankings? If this video gets popular enough, maybe I'll revisit it with data from you all. And if you're interested in seeing any of my raw data, I've included a link to the Google Sheet in the description, so feel free to give it a look for yourself. And with that, I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you all so very much for watching this, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Alright, it's time for End Slate, I guess. I don't know, I see other YouTubers doing this, and I guess you're supposed to do this at the end of videos, but I don't know, I have a tendency to ramble, so, you know, we'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching this, I really appreciate it. But also, sorry this video was so late. Yeah, this video was supposed to be out, like, over a month ago, but things in real life got out of hand, both figuratively and literally. I fucked up my hand really bad, like to the point where I couldn't work on videos. It was really bad. But I'm all recovered now. But then as soon as my hand got fixed, I got really sick. I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice. I'm kind of overcoming it. But my fall allergies set in. This happens to me like every year. I don't get spring allergies. I am basically immune to pollen. But something about the leaves turning orange really fucks with me. So I for 2 days straight, I couldn't get out of bed. Just could not even stand up. It was so bad. But everything, you know, of course, all happened at the same time. But now it's all better. So yeah, sorry. Like I said, sorry the video's late. But this was not my intention for all of this bad stuff to happen all at once. But as for the next video, I have absolutely no clue what it's going to be. I'm sort of bouncing around 4 or 5 different videos that are all at varying levels of doneness. Most of them have a fully written script, and I just need to sit down and record it. But we'll see. I'm not going to make any promises as to what's coming next. We're going to find out together. But yeah, I mean, again, thank you for watching this and for sticking with it. Part 2 of the Mario series is hard on its way. It's going to be long. It's going to be a really long video. I was like, oh yeah, 5 games? Oh, that's not that bad. Oh, I did a 3-hour long video of 20 games. So 5-hour long video, man, less than 2 hours. The way that it's shaping up right now, it might be 5. it's going to be a really fucking long video. So that probably is not going to be the next video to come out, but we'll see. I make no promises as to what's coming out. But I am also using this as a method to say thank you so much for the support on the last video. I talked about it at the end of that video, like, oh man, I hope that I get like 100 views and like 10 likes and like 3 comments that aren't like mean. And at the time of recording this, I mean, it's got over 700 views, which, you know, is like, yeah, seems like nothing, right? But like compared to other videos. But I never even thought that I would get that many. I didn't even think that I would ever get, you know, 200, 300, 400 views, let alone 7. So I mean, I really can't thank you guys enough. The support on that video has been almost exclusively positive, and I got a comment the other day that it really made my day. Just how supportive it was. You know, I do this. I do YouTube videos for me. You know, I make the content that I would want to watch, but you know, it makes me happy to know that there are people out there who enjoy the stuff that I'm putting out. So yeah, just thank you so much. I really could just keep rambling on and on and on. If I wanted to, this end slate could be 50% of the video. And it might get to that point. It might get to that point if I don't cut myself off now. But thank you also very much for watching this. And please keep, like I said in the last one, keep telling me what you want to see. Because I am open to making the kind of content that I think that other people might enjoy, as long as, you know, it's something that I would enjoy making. You know, I've got some other interesting stuff down the line, interesting in big fucking quotes right there. Off scripted stuff. We'll say that. Some unscripted stuff with me and my friends that may or may not be the next video that comes out, or the next, you know, 2 or 3 videos that come out. But yeah, just keep telling me what you guys want to see. Because like I said in the last one, if I get a comment that says like, hey, I want to see you stream Pikmin, I'm gonna fucking stream Pikmin. You know, I'll do it. I will do whatever. If there's someone out there who wants to see it, I'm gonna make it happen. But yeah, thank you all so very much for watching this, and I hope you're having a fantastic day.